What's up?
Could you just start with your name and spelling, please?
My name is Captain Christopher Rolla, C-H-R-I-S-T-O-P-H-E-R. Last name's Rolla, R-O-L.
With?
The New York State Park Police.
So tell us a little bit about what happened.
At approximately 11:43, New York State Park Police dispatch received a call of an individual in the water near the American Falls holding onto a branch. Our patrols responded and found an individual, in fact, in the water, still clinging onto a branch. At that time, we contacted our partners, New York State Police, Niagara Falls City Fire Department, also Border Patrol responded. They responded to the area, and at that time we began rescue operations.
Any idea why he was in the water and what's his condition like?
Not at this time. He was just sent to the hospital, so I don't have an update for you on that.
How long was he in the water?
Since 11:43 till approximately 1:30, I believe.
Do you know who he is or where he's from?
Still under investigation. We believe he's local from the area, though.
I believe local from the falls.
We're hearing from witnesses that he was caught in the middle at first and then possibly went down further. Can you kind of give us the timeline of where
I
he
can
might have
describe
jumped
the
in?
rescue
Yes,
for you.
please.
2 rescuers from Niagara Falls Fire went out, did a great job. They made 2 attempts the first time in the water. It's a very treacherous spot there. They went out. The second time, they were able to secure the individual, and at that time, it appears the individual fought with them, and he broke free. And then at that time, the individual to the left of me here, really the hero of the day, Major Clyde Doty, went out by himself on a line and secured that victim as he was floating towards the American Falls.
When you say that he fought with them, is that an indication that he did not want to be saved?
Again, it's still under investigation, but it appears, I mean, he had been in the water for a while, so it's hard to say that for sure.
In the initial sort of observations, though, what hypothermia must be an issue.
Oh yes, we were concerned about it at that time. That's why we're trying to make the rescue as fast as we could.
What's his physical nature at this point right now? I mean, is he blue in the lips, all this stuff?
He appeared semi-conscious when he came up.
Were your rescuers actually talking to him, trying to keep him alert?
That'd be a question for the major, but from the shoreline it appeared that he was.
Any idea what the water temperature is right now?
No, sir.
Do you have the
Water
identity
speed.
of the other rescuers? You mentioned Mr. Doty.
For the State Park Police was myself and Major Clyde Doty, and then I'm sure the chief could speak to his individuals
Which
that were
hospital
there.
did he go to?
I'm not sure actually.
Niagara Falls Memorial?
Yes.
Okay.
Could we speak to the one that was it you?
The rescuer?
Rescuer? Come on up.
All right.
Come on up,
If
sir.
you can just look forward when you're answering the question.
What is your first and last name and spelling, please?
First name is Clyde, C-L-Y-D-E, Doty, D-O-T-Y.
Mr. Doty, how did you know to be where you were?
I was watching Niagara Falls Rescuers, the fire department, conducting their rescue. And just the angle that I had, I could see where the current was going. And if there was a mishap of any sort, I just kind of thought that's the direction, the route he would take, or an individual would take. So the captain and I, we just quickly got suited up, made our way out there. As we were heading towards that spot, we had heard the crowd, give a gasp. We kind of stepped it up a little bit faster, and then we heard another noise from the crowd, and I saw the individual coming down river, and was able to jump in and intercept him
Were you the one in the yellow or the red?
in the yellow.
What was he like when you encountered him? What was his demeanor, if you will?
He was conscious, but he was not alert. He just had that stare. Hypothermia had clearly set in. He couldn't move. Once I did get a hold of him, I was trying to hold his head up, but his arms, his body was so rigid, he couldn't move, he couldn't help in any way.
What was he wearing? Did he already have? Was it just a
He
sweatshirt
had
or a
thermal.
jacket?
He had a light jacket on. He had jeans on and thermals on under that. The current's unbelievable out there, and that had taken his jeans halfway off, so he was pretty much in his thermal.
Those
You spent considerable
final
time with him
moments, Those final moments when you were bringing him in, what was that like? What was going through your mind?
I just told, so the fireman had came out. I had secured him, but I couldn't move after that. Just all I could do to keep his head up above water and wait for help. And we started, as the firemen came in, I just told him, no matter what happens when we move, just work to keep his head above water. And as we started to move, and the ground crew started to pull us in. That's all.
You spent a lot of time out there with what are you saying to him to keep him alert? Was he talking back?
A lot of babbling on his part. I just kept telling him, we got help coming. I got you. We're not going anywhere. I kept telling him he's a strong man. For anybody to stay out in the water that long, that's a strong person. And I just kept reassuring him how strong he was, and we're going to get help, and we're going to get him out of here.
You trained for this year round, but in that moment, can you describe to us what that was like?
It was just a reaction. Everybody here, everybody trains, and everybody reacts, and that's what it is. We did what we're trained to do.
Have
You
been
literally
through a
caught him
rescue
in
like
the
that
water?
before? Have you been through a rescue like that before?
Not to the extent where I had to intercept somebody.
You had
I've been in that river, but not to that
You
extent.
literally caught him, like he was floating right at you, and you caught him with your arms.
Yes.
To catch him.
Grabbed him.
Yes.
It's impressive. It's intense.
Did this rescue? I know you can't really say whether it went according to plan, but did it pretty much match what you do in training, or was there anything sort of outside maybe him slipping?
We train, we're friends with Niagara Falls Fire, personal friends, a lot of them. We train together as much as we possibly can. Scheduling is hard, but we train for all different scenarios, and so it's not to say that anything didn't go according to plan. It just worked out.
Was there any moment that you were worried for your safety as well?
No, never worried.
About how far away were you all from the actual falls? Is that tough to calculate? Just distance-wise, maybe you're talking about 40 yards or
I'd say 75 yards.
75 yards.
How are you able to stay stable in that current for so long? Was there a rock underneath, or were you just hanging on to each other?
There's rocks and there's crevices, and you just find whether it's a rock. I had one foot in a crevice and the other behind a rock, but he was on my legs. I was actually squatted down. He was on my legs, and my one arm was holding his head up.
You were in a squatting position for well over 90 minutes in the water.
That's what it took. Yeah.
Was it helpful, I guess, that the crowd gasped? You mentioned the crowd gasping. Is that something you noticed that? You said you heard that?
Well, that definitely stood out. And once we heard that, we had picked it up and it moved much quicker. And then that second gasp there was a difference in that noise. And looked upriver and saw him coming.
What's it like being in the Niagara River in that rapids when we look at it? It moves so quickly.
Again, we train, you're kind of, I don't say you're used to it, but we're in it a lot, and
Were you
just used to it.
It's gotta be scary to
How are
just
you
go
feeling?
in
How
there.
are you?
I feel good. I'm glad it all worked out, I'm glad he's off to where he can get some help, and whatever he needs to be on this, that he gets.
Were you in communication with the two firefighters, I believe they were firefighters, that were coming from the shore? And it looked like they attempted to go out, or one of them did, and it kind of slipped and then went up river a little bit and came back to you. Were you talking to them at that time? Or did you hear them, or was that just...
Yeah, there's always communication going on. To pull something off like that, any rescue, you have to have constant communication.
Can you explain why they went back the way they did? They sort of went up the river and came back to you? Do you know?
Because there's different depths of water in there, which creates different amounts of water pressure on your body as you're trying to traverse through there. Some spots you just can't walk without a rope. Others you could stand right up and it might only be almost up to your knee and you can maneuver. So it just depends on the water depth.
Let's do one more question.
In terms of access, there's not much public access down there. Would it take someone intentionally to try to get closer to water in order to be pushed down there or anything like that? Because doesn't seem like there's much public access down there. Is that right?
So how did he get in the water?
That would be speculation. I have no idea. When we had gotten the report, the report was he was in the water, so we have no idea.
Give me your name and title one more time, sir.
Name and title?
Yes, please.
Major Clyde Doty, D-O-T-Y.
State Parks
Or
Police.
State Park Police.
Park Police.
Yeah.
Chief,
To be clear, he is still was alive and is still out. Yes.
come up just a little bit more. Chief. Thank you. Just say and spell your name.
Fire Chief Joe Padula, P-E-D-U-L-L-A.
Talk about your firefighters today. What a heroic, incredible thing that they do just on an everyday kind of basis.
You know, you never know when something like this is going to happen, and of course you have to be ready for it when it does. Like we had said previously, about 10 to 12, a call came in for a person in the water above the falls off Goat Island. We responded, we found the individual. We weren't sure if he was hanging onto a rock or if he was wedged underneath the tree branch rather, but we had to make every effort to get in there and get him out. Difficult, as said previously, as to where to go in, the depth of the water and the strength of the rapids. We immediately notified the Niagara Falls or the Niagara Power Authority to lower the water levels, which they did. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to lower the levels before we attempted to go in. The first spot we attempted to go in, the water was too high to traverse to get out to him. The current was too strong. We came back, we repositioned, went in a second time, and that's when Captain Gordy Stewart and Captain Gerald Frazier made it to the victim and attempted to drag him back. And dragging him back, he did fight with the collar that was on him. It could be just a natural reaction of being in the water for a couple of hours. He was probably disoriented. It's very possible. We don't know why at this time, but he did get loose of the collar that we had on him, and he did slip and go down the river, go down the falls, the water a little bit more. And luckily, Major Doty was there to grab him. If he wasn't there, I don't know what would have happened to the guy, but he did a fantastic job.
So he was in the water for 2 hours, and your guys were in the water for a long time too. Like,
that was 2 hours that we know of. We don't like we had said earlier. We don't know how he got in there. We don't know how long he had been in there. So
When you say a collar,
it's a flotation collar that we wrap around the victim and cinch it, and then pull him back to shore.
around their body, around their
Around
torso?
around their torso.
Major Doty, was he tethered to the shore?
He was tethered to the shore. Absolutely.
But when you train, do you train to be in the water for that long, for 2 hours?
We do not. We do not. Our training is to go in and grab the victim and get out. We never have somebody in the water for that length of time, and that does present a problem. Like I said, the temperature of the water was 51 degrees.
Are there any issues with hypothermia even with your guys?
Our guys are fine. The suits that we have, the flotation devices, what we have is a neoprene material, and it keeps it's more of like a dry suit, keep the water off of them. So they're fine as far as they go.
How fast were the rapids moving? Obviously it's 51 degrees, but the rapids, they were moving pretty fast.
I don't know the speed at that particular place. It varies throughout the rapids.
Were the two firefighters who helped Major Doty, are they the same ones who went into the water initially, or were those two?
No, no, they were not the same. Firefighter Aaron Melstrom is one that went out with Major Doty and brought the individual back.
So about how many first responders were involved in this?
I had approximately 16 firefighters here today.
How long did it take to actually get here on scene when you got the initial call?
Probably a matter of 3 to 4 minutes before the first company was here assessing the.
How amazing is it at that temperature that he was in the water for 2 hours?
That's the thing that we should focus on, is that he was in there for over 2 hours at that temperature. The charts that we see don't look well for that, but his will to stay alive was what kept him alive today.
As firefighters approached him, I mean, could you explain what they were saying to him, or what he was saying to the firefighters?
As Major Doty said, it was inaudible, but just babbled what he was saying. It wasn't making much sense.
I mean, did you guys get the inclination that this was a man who was trying to take his own life, or that this was just an accident?
I don't know that. Like I say, we don't know how he got to where he is, and with our job, it doesn't matter how they got there. It's how we have to get them out.
How often does this kind of thing happen?
Something like this, not very often. Thank God. Thank God. This has happened over my career. It's happened a few times, but hopefully this is rare.
At any point during the experience, were you afraid for the safety of your firefighters and first responders out there?
The training that we go through, that was the one thing that I wasn't worried about. Knowing the ropes and the harnesses and how to tether the guys, that was the one thing that I wasn't afraid of at all. I was more afraid of grabbing the guy and getting him back to shore because of the hypothermia issue.
Was he conscious when he was brought out in an ambulance?
You'd have to ask the Major Doty. He was down at that end. I wasn't.
Were the firefighters who were involved that were actually in the water, have they ever been involved in a rescue like this before? Do you know?
An actual on-scene rescue in the water, I don't believe these guys have.
Can you give us their names and spellings?
Yeah, the first two rescuers were Captain Gordy Stewart, Stewart, and Captain Gerald with a G, Frazier, Fraizer, and it was firefighter Aaron Malmstrom, Malstrom.
That was Malmstrom's the one that was with the Doty.
Yes, that's correct.
You said 51 degrees, is that right?
That's
In
correct.
your recollection, have you ever been in the water that long trying to rescue somebody,
No.
like over 2 hours trying to rescue
No.
somebody and pull them in?
No, not in the water that length of time.
What goes through your mind?
Cold and just tiring. The rescuers being tired out. You know, it's fighting that water. It takes a lot of strength, and I could see it look towards the end that the guys were getting tired.
I know you haven't
It's
had.
natural.
I know you haven't had a chance to debrief yet because this is still ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you guys will adapt training for possibly longer in the water training for situations like this?
Well, we're going to have to. Yeah, I mean, our training is to do this, and this is another thing that we don't see. 2 hours in the water is something that we haven't had before. So yes, we're going to have to adapt to this and then incorporate this into our training.
Let's do one more for the chief. And then
Can you
these
speak to
guys
the
say some more.
mentality of preparing to go in and do this sort of thing?
Like Major Doty said, it's a reaction. You don't really think too much into it. You just go and do what you're trained to do. It's a that you call and you go. You don't sit and ponder over it. You just react.
Could you just identify yourselves again?
Fire Chief Joe Padula.
Can you spell that, Joe?
Pedulla.
Niagara Falls.
City of Niagara Falls Fire Department.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.